When were you first introduced to the Savoy?
I was 12 years old. I was standing at Easter Sunday. I'm standing outside it's like see, Easter was like a dress parade. You ever see black people with the
Yes.
parade? Boy, you saw outfits you couldn't believe. So I'm standing there watching the people go into the Savoy, which was just the best dressed people in the world. And this man, Twist Mouth George, saw me dancing outside the Savoy and asked me
Twist Mouth George.
The one that founded, actually the man that's credited with putting together the Lindy Hop the way we knew it. He was the best. He was the best. Everybody knew him, had a reputation. And he asked me.
And you were 12?
12.
12 years old. He asked you to go in and dance with him. And what was your impression of the Savoy on the
most wonderful
from
place,
the inside?
The most wonderful place I'd ever seen. I never saw anything like that in my life. I mean,
what did it look like, Miss Miller?
It looked like a palace. I mean, how do you describe a band and people dancing? And I mean, I don't know what it looked like. I'm just excited about the fact that at last I'm inside, not outside looking in.
That's right.
I can look at it from our window. We can look to the back of it. But I never saw a band on the bandstand. That I was most impressed with, to see all these men playing the music and the people are dancing in front. And then to be a part of that was something that I wanted to be more than anything else, and it happened.
But how were you allowed to do that since
well,
you were
he asked
underage?
permission for me to come up. He went over to Big George, and I saw Big George, I don't know what he said, but it sounded as if you want with this crazy kid, because they used to chase me.
Big George was the security person?
Big George was the Diamond Jim at the door. He was the guy that sat at the door to take the tickets. He was called Diamond Jim. He had a diamond stick pin, diamond ring, diamonds always in a tuxedo, and diamonds down the front of his shirt, and never got stuck up in Harlem, ever.
I guess
no
not.
one ever touched Big George. That's why he was called Big George. And he gave Twist Mouth permission for me to come up, but I had to come back out as soon as I finished dancing, and that's what he did.
What was the significance of the Savoy during that period? And we're talking about in the 20s, of course.
26. It opened in 1926.
Yes.
I started going in 1930. 30, 31, 32. I started going there. But what's the most significant thing? Because remember now, we're living in a segregated society. And this was the first place in the world that wasn't segregated.
And
it was the first time that black people was on the same level. You had a lot of black entertainers in nightclubs all in Harlem. But they were the entertainers. They were not the client. They were not sitting in the audience. You had the Cotton Club 2 blocks up from the Savoy Ballroom with some of the greatest shows in the world. But Duke Ellington was the orchestra. But the black person didn't come in that door. They came in the backstage. And you had all the other clubs, Small's Paradise, where you had almost a mixture there, close like this, but it was the white entertainers, it was the white clientele that kept the place open. But the Savoy, it was on the same level. Here were black and white going in the doorway at the same time, dancing to the same place, and that's made it the most unusual place in the world at that time. It was the only place that wasn't segregated in the world.
And it opened in 1926, and it opened integrated.
Integrated.
Isn't that something?
It was the
Who
first
owned
place.
that Savoy? Who was responsible for that kind of thinking?
Well, see, it was a black ballroom. Number one, period. That's where black people came to dance. Well, white people are coming in anyway. They have always gone any place they want in Harlem anyhow. So there wasn't a question of them mixing. You'll find a black guy dancing with a white girl, which was the shock of all times, because they tried to put those same mores from the South into the Savoy Ballroom. They tried it, they couldn't do it, and they went in all kinds of ways to do harm to the whole idea of the Savoy Ballroom. And
you're talking about the politicians,
people like that. Cab drivers was told to say, if you go up to Harlem, this will happen to you, black people will do this to you. And white people had been coming to Harlem, that was their playground. But they wanted to change the spending habits of white people. And the first thing they did was take the Cotton Club out of Harlem and put it downtown.
Wow.
Then they took Child's Restaurant, which is on 25th Street and 7th Avenue, where black people weren't allowed to go into the restaurant, so they moved that and moved it downtown. Then you had Frank's, which was next door to the Apollo. It was a long time before you had black waiters, but you didn't have no black people sitting down for dinner, and that was right next door to the Apollo Theater.
Wow.
Remember, this was segregated. It wasn't until Adam Clayton Powell marched a lot of housewives through Harlem, which included my mother, to get a black woman to go sit on the cash register in Harlem at 125th Street. This was the situation in Harlem prior to 1930.